This season of Impossible Dreams is brought to you by our charity champion, the ALS Network. The ALS Network provides critical care to patients, families, the community, funding to help end ALS with research. We could not be more grateful to the ALS Network for their support, not just of season 1, but now of season 2. Their big gala is this January. It's their Champions Gala. They are honoring the one, the only Eric Dane, whose advocacy work is already affecting the lives of millions. Please visit the alsnetwork.org to learn more about their mission, how you can get involved and make a donation. Thank you so much. And let's get into today's episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Impossible Dreams. I'm your host, Aaron Lazar, and happy holidays. Happy holidays. It's the but the Jews don't know the words to this song. Don't blame me. I grew up with a Hanukkah menorah, and we don't have amazing songs like that except for Adam Sandler's. But I wanted to welcome you all to a very special holiday episode of Impossible Dreams. My guest today could not be more inspirational, and I'm so thrilled that Matt Dawson is our holiday episode because Matt has lived more impossible dreams than maybe anybody. He's got to be one of the guys who's lived more impossible dreams than anybody on the planet. I don't know. He is the Guinness World Record holder of 6 world records for endurance athletics. He's hiked some of the highest mountains in the world. He's rode across the Atlantic, hiked across the Mojave. I think he flew a plane around the world by himself. There's really not much that Matt hasn't done and accomplished, or at least tried, but it didn't start that way for Matt. He was living what most of us would consider to be an incredibly successful life as a banker, spending $10,000 a night in the clubs, but he was miserable. And Matt actually didn't know how much longer he wanted to hang around in this lifetime. He found himself in Nepal. I'm going to save the rest of this incredible conversation for you all in the episode, but I wanted to thank Matt for being here. Matt, you inspire me every day. We might not be cut from the same cloth as far as our backgrounds and geographics and all that, but we couldn't be more cut from the same cloth as far as guys who took it upon ourselves to use spirituality to transform ourselves and transform our life. Matt is the proud creator of the Dawson's Peak Foundation, a 501c3, where Matt channels all of his efforts with athletics and challenges into charity for communities. I know he's done that for a lot of veterans charities, and I think he's expanding beyond. And Matt is also the author of an amazing book called Strength and Surrender. Guys, this conversation's taken us all into the new year with new hope, new excitement, new passion, and a new belief in ourselves, a renewed belief in ourselves that nothing is impossible. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation, and thanks so much. Welcome to Impossible Dreams. Matt Dawson, I've been told to call you Dawson. So that we've known each other for 30 seconds, but I'm allowed. I'm in the inner circle.
It normally takes people years to get to that point, but I'm letting you in the circle.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
Dawson.
cool.
Yeah.
So you are buds with my producer, Robbie Shaw. Robbie, you want to give us a quick story, and Dawson, you can tell us whether this is true or not.
Yeah, I mean, I was reached out by Dawson's team, and they were just begging to come on my podcast.
Nice.
And, I mean, with a thorough investigation, we said yes. No, yeah, we got introduced through my podcast, and
Champagne
Problems.
Check it out, everybody. We haven't talked about it a lot yet on the show.
We haven't. It's actually has ended after 4.5 years. But
it's over.
The content.
But you got
is
4.5
still
seasons on YouTube, on every podcast app.
You got it. Big library.
Yep.
And
Please
Matt Dawson being one of them. One of my favorite conversations, and I'm excited to do this again and go even deeper.
Great. And so have you guys stayed in touch as buds, or you guys were just, you did the episode and then we were
we've stayed in touch pretty well. As Robbie's one of the first guys I sent the book to, even before it came out.
When did the book come out?
It came out in January.
Great.
Yeah, so I got Robbie, in his hands before that, and just all kidding aside, is when I met him, I knew he was doing something that I really liked, and the way that he was going about it, and just the way he was pursuing everything, and kind of his message, and what he had been through personally, and just knew this is a guy I want to keep in my network, and we've stayed connected ever since. then he reached out about meeting up with you, and so it's just been a great to be able to connect through him.
Well, I'm proud that we got 3 alpha males. Unfortunately, we're all white, which I wish we had some more diversity in this room. But I'm proud that for 3 alpha males, middle-aged ass alpha males, basically, we got guys who have been through hell, gone through recovery. We've changed, we've grown, and we are now using whatever our stories have been to help other people empower themselves to change and grow. Dawson, can you just real quick tell us about the mission of Dawson's Peak? Is it Peak or Peaks?
Yeah, Peak, P-E-A-K.
Dawson's Peak and the Dawson Peak Foundation.
Yeah, certainly. So Dawson's Peak Foundation is a fully registered 501c3. We're a public charity, and our mission is to inspire the discovery and pursuit of individual purpose. It's just
Hold on, say that again, because this is really good.
Inspire the discovery and pursuit of individual purpose. To get people to understand that we all have a unique gift that only we can offer the world and way only we can offer it. And what you and I were talking about before we got on is, I think it's, life is a very simple thing, but it's not easy. And the way that we break it down is we're here for one reason, and that is to grow. And you grow by living with purpose, and then you take that growth and that purpose and apply it to elevate others. Because if you're doing things just in a vacuum, just for yourself, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and you're not going to achieve ultimately what you're seeking to achieve.
I love this so much because it's exactly my mission. The impossible dream, my mission was to heal, right? Help others heal while I heal. And I realized in order to do that through the impossible dream, it was showing people that nothing's impossible, that we all have the power within us to make the impossible possible. And that is really what you said is kind of just a more, just a different way of saying that, I think, but in a way that's very clear and very actionable. Although traditionally, people sort of confuse purpose. And if we can just talk about what that is, one of the questions that, at least when I was growing up and still, I think my kids have a deeper perspective on it, and they'll have their generation will be much more connected, I think, to purpose and spiritual purpose. Mm-hmm. But, there were all these sort of material world, 3D world questions. What's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? What am I here to do? But it was looked at from a sort of 3D dimension, right? And you kind of were on that path. You were Ivy League football player, or no, football at Navy or football
at both. So I started at Navy and I finished at Wharton at UPenn in Philly.
Great. I'm a Philly guy, dude. Yeah. You're an Alabama guy originally, but are you a Philadelphia fan? Or are you?
Born and raised in Alabama. I left Philly 20 some odd years ago. I've never been back.
So you're not a Philly fan.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
You're gonna leave it at that? Man, first Philly hater we've had on the show, dude. We'll connect you with Bill Burr. You guys can.
Now, that being said, I'm a huge Bill fan. So if my feelings on Philly, get me in touch with Bill.
Okay.
Then, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Bill, I think Bill has a funny rant against Philly, but I think I've talked about it before.
Yeah.
On the
Well, he had that one notorious one where he went off for like 15 minutes. Yeah, that's classic.
Well, that was in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
I Camden. So I grew up 8-9 miles from Philadelphia in South Jersey.
Okay.
And you drove through Camden to get to Philly. And Camden was one of those places that you were like, you don't want to go
I know
there.
Camden, yeah.
But the mayor, right, turned it around. One of the mayors cleaned up the whole Admiral Wilson Boulevard. The drive from South Jersey into Philly was something called Admiral Wilson Boulevard, and it was all strip clubs and liquor stores. And they knocked them all down at some point. They put up a whole bunch of trees and made it look nice. And then Camden put up the Tweeter Center, this big music center, and for concerts and stuff, tried to turn around the waterfront. But for whatever reason, Bill Burr found himself there.
Yeah.
at the Tweeter Center, just hating on Philadelphia. All right, so let's go back to purpose for a second. So when you were, you were in the Navy.
No, I was. Yeah, I just want to clear it up.
Sorry, Naval Academy.
Naval Academy. So technically, I was in the Navy, but I don't claim to be a veteran in any way, shape, or form.
And yet, all of Dawson's Peak Foundation goes to military veteran-related nonprofits.
Right. So the project we're working on now is called 7 for Soldiers, which we'll probably get more into. But it's a project that we have where 100% of the net proceeds benefit Hope for the Warriors and Gary Sinise Foundation, which are two of the highest rated veteran charities in the country. And it was a way for us through our first project to give back to people that have enabled us to do, what we do on a daily basis. And again, to show it's about doing something for others. So, we want to do some cool things on our side, but, give back to the veterans and just to exemplify the message.
All right. I definitely want to chop that up and get into that because I have so many questions, but let's stay on purpose for a second. So your purpose when you were, 20s, 30s was make some good money as an investment banker in LA. And you were, an athlete. Obviously you're really in shape now. I imagine that you've always been, if you were an elite football player, that you've always been connected to staying in shape and nutrition and stuff. But what would you say your purpose was then?
Right.
And then let's get into what happened that led you to where you are now.
I would say at that point, until I kind of got on the path I am now, I didn't have a purpose. I think I had programming. And my programming at that point was to, succeed in a professional sense, in a monetary sense. We got to the point, I'd been doing investment banking, buying and selling companies, during merger and acquisitions, excuse me, for many years. Had good success in that, was living in the Hollywood Hills and was taking, vacations and buying cars and motorcycles. And
living
all that
the
kind
life,
of stuff.
baby.
I was living the life that you think that you want to live.
This is the dream. This
Right.
is everybody. This is the American dream, right?
Right. And I might be out at a club spending $10,000 on a table Thursday night.
Wish I knew you then,
Right.
man.
Yeah. I was a lot more fun then. But all day Friday, I might be in bed so depressed and so angry and so sad that the thought of turning and putting my feet on the floor, I was almost in tears.
So this is because there was underlying depression that what you were covering up with partying?
I think it was. It's for when I was younger, I was always kind of just a rambunctious kid. And, we subconsciously get programmed so early in life. And from like 3, 4, 5, up to like 10, I was constantly being told that I was wrong. And to sit down.
By parents, brothers,
by
sisters?
parents and teachers and just everything. It was just.
You got brothers and sisters? Or?
I have an older sister, but she was never, playing that role. But it's just parents, teachers, just other administrators or adults. Of just, sit down, be quiet. You should be seen and not heard, that kind of thing. And you just internalize that because when you're a kid, you don't know any better. And I think I just kind of carried that with me for so long on a subconscious level that in my, 20s, 30s, into the late 30s is I didn't know who I was. I had no idea about purpose. I never thought about purpose. And it was more just going on this programming that I had from society of what I thought success was.
Okay, so I wanna bounce back to Robbie. What was your deal when you were, did you have a purpose set out? You were a Division I UNC basketball player, dude. Which, by the way, Rob, for everyone who's been following the show, I've known Robbie now off and on for a couple of years, but pretty closely for the last couple months. We've been filming, and the man had never told me that he played basketball for UNC. I just thought he hated Duke because he hated Duke. But a guy who's playing basketball at that level, like, what were you setting out to do? What was your purpose, and how?
Well, I think mine was very similar to Dawson's in that it was extremely programmed, and I have never worded it that way. When people ask me that question all the time, what you?
Yeah, I love the word. It's very clear. It's very clear.
It makes perfect sense, and a lot of people can relate. I look back, and yes, there was success in areas, and me doing these things. I was so ill-equipped for life, and I can,
even being an elite athlete.
Oh, no question. Just going out and pushing yourself to those limits and having some success does not prepare you for heartbreak. It doesn't prepare you for intense emotions that you may have never felt before that you're going to feel when you grow and get older and mature and experience life. Those were the things that I had not experienced and dealt with yet. And so when I did not know what to do, and I really didn't like it. So I did everything I could to avoid it. And for me, the most effective route for that was substances.
Yeah, and hence Champagne Problems, your podcast. Did you real quick though? Did you have, Dawson was headed to be an investment banker, right? Did you have, what was your career dream that you were headed after?
I had no career dream. I wanted to be a comedian. I wanted to be famous.
Got
And
it.
that's all I cared about, was making people laugh and being popular and funny and good looking, and that's all I cared about.
Was that part of your program? Were you that guy growing up in your family?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I was too.
I killed it.
Yeah, I killed it at the dinner table. Killed it at the dinner table.
Crushed dinners.
So mine was, I thought I had a very clear purpose. I wanted to be a Broadway star. I wanted to just do theater. I just wanted to do that at the highest level. That purpose didn't become real until college. It was sort of a pipe dream before then, that I thought I was going to be a doctor. I thought my purpose was to go be a surgeon, and I loved that too. But then when it became clear that I was going to be an actor, I was pretty clear on my purpose until I got really into my early 30s. And I went, wait a minute, I lived the dream that I set out to live, and now I don't know what my purpose is, because it's not deep enough. There's something about just going out and entertaining people in shows that are often commercial and not art. And I wanted to make art, and I wanted to feel things, and I wanted to transform audiences, and I didn't want to just be in a thing and entertain people. I don't know why. I just didn't feel like that's what I wanted to do. And I kind of lost myself when I lost what my purpose was while, starting to have a family and have kids. And then it was a slow sort of fall from grace until I broke.
I think that's where people get confused oftentimes between profession and purpose, and what you do and who you are, and what you do and why you do what you do. Because you can be an actor or an entertainer and do it and still have a different purpose. You could have 1,000 actors that all have different purposes, and that's just far too often we put these things together when they shouldn't be put together. And I think it's just kind of as a society, we do it unknowingly.
Yeah, well, that's why this conversation is really exciting for me to have with you guys. And Dawson, thanks for being here, man, because changing the conversation for the next generation and changing the conversation for people who are listening, it's never too late to change. We talk about programming. If you study meditation at all with Joe Dispenza, he says that by the time you're 35, 95% of who you are is just autopilot program. Yeah. If you study or listen to Bashar at all, he'll say, hold on a second. If you're aware of your program and you're aware of your habits and you continue to engage in them, it's not a program, it's a choice.
Right.
And so helping empower people to become aware and to go, hey, wait a second. If I'm not my career, who am I?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, having lost my career at times, having lost my family at times, my role as a husband, having lost homes, having lost my health, my body, you're not any of those things.
Yeah.
And so my purpose started to be my actual purpose, which, going back to your original comment, our purpose is very simple. Life is very simple. You said our purpose is to grow.
Right.
I would say our purpose is to be, everybody's purpose is to be the most authentic you that you can be.
Yeah.
And I think most of the time that requires growth.
Yeah.
I hope that helps some people just from some of these big questions, just making them very clear and digestible and actionable. I think the actions of whether it was you $10,000 at the club or Robbie the substances, for me I was like a work addict. I was either in the gym burning off anger and trying to control my physical appearance because I felt like I was in a business and a life where I had no control over anything and I didn't know how to deal with that. Or I was just trying to find ways to do more, get more, have more, be more, and achieve.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know who I was without that. So let's go to you get to a point in your late 30s, and I've heard this story. It's really powerful. Can you just tell the story of what happened to you and how you were affected by that?
Yeah, and not to bore you with it, because I know that you've heard it. It's
definitely not boring, and there's plenty of people who haven't heard it. So
yeah, please
tell it. Yeah,
is that so? Late 30s is I'd achieved a certain level of professional success and personal success, but there was a darkness, there was an emptiness inside of me that had been there for as long as I could remember, and it just kept growing. And no matter what I threw into it, it would change, and whatever it was like a puzzle piece. I thought I had the answer. I'd put that in there, then it would morph.
But you're conscious of it at this point? Like you're at home in your pad and you're going like,
I just went out last night and had the best time ever, and today I feel like shit, something is wrong, or are you just not aware of it?
I knew about it on a conscious level, but it's the part is, as humans, is we like certainty. And it's like, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I just knew I was sad and I was disconnected and I was angry a lot of times. And anger is a secondary emotion. It's coming from something else. So I knew that I had all these emotions that weren't good. I didn't know why it was. I looked around my life. I'm like, I've got all the stuff, that you need. And so why am I not feeling this way? And it just, for as long as I remember, I always felt disconnected. I always felt different. I always felt kind of broken. It's something I'd been carrying with me for a long time. And long story short is at that point, my mother passed away. I broke up with a serious girlfriend. And I reached a stage or a decision point where I was ready to check in or check out. And I mean, I was on the verge of it because I didn't want to be around anymore in that state that I was in. And I knew the level of change I needed to make wasn't going to be meeting with a therapist once a week or reading, Joe's book, which I'm a huge advocate of. Joe Dispenza, a big fan of his. But it's just, it wasn't little things that I needed. Like I needed a complete rewrite, and a reboot. So I know to do that level of change, I needed to get away from everything and everyone that I knew.
So that right there is your sort of gut. That's your soul talking to you of
Right.
like, this is not therapy. This is not, what I was doing for a while, listening to Joel Osteen in the car, or Tony Robbins walking around my neighborhood. This is, you knew deep within you that you had to do something pretty radical.
Yeah, I mean, because if not, I didn't want to be here anymore. Like it was at that level. And the challenge is when you're trying to do such a rewrite or a reboot, if you've got 95% of the same stuff around you all the time, where you're reading the same books, you're talking to the same people, listening to the same music, wearing the same clothes, eating the same food, living in the same house, it's very hard to do that. So it's like I've got to get away from everything that I know. And a couple months before, I'd been out to dinner with a buddy. He brought another friend who had been to Everest Base Camp. And before this time, the thought of climbing Everest or of climbing a mountain or rowing an ocean sounded terrible. I'm like, who are these assholes that do this? And when I say I had zero interest in it, I mean, I had less than zero interest in this stuff.
So you weren't like an amateur kind of adventure guy.
No.
Were you working out?
Yeah. So I'd always worked out. I've been an athlete my whole life. Tried to play pro ball for a few years, had some contract offers, stuff like that. And after that point, I always lifted because the one thing I never missed, regardless of how bad I felt, was I'd never missed the gym.
Yeah.
And that was like the one thing I had. I had to do it.
Never miss a leg day.
Yeah.
Me too, baby.
So it was. So I was always in shape, but at that point, as I'd gotten just big, I just wanted to lift heavy stuff.
Power lifter.
Yeah. So I'm 200 pounds right now. I was 242 at that point.
Dude, you got arms the size of Thor, and you were bigger than that.
I was 42 pounds heavier than I am now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It
unbelievable.
was just picking up heavy stuff. I just enjoyed it,
Oh, dude, I did too.
Yeah.
There's something about it. I miss it a lot.
But it's for some reason this thing about Everest, the base camp, just resonated with me. And then when I reached that point, something inside of me just said, Everest is your answer. Just you need to go there. And I'd never done anything like that before. I mean, the thought of walking 100 yards was long distance to me. At the time, that was an endurance race.
Wow, man.
So it was.
And think about where you are now.
Yeah.
I can't wait to tell
And then
people about
I contacted a group. Just got on the internet. Found a group there, and like I don't know, a week later, I flew to Nepal and to Kathmandu, and spent the next 3 weeks hiking largely alone around base camp, around the region there. And I hired a guide, but I told him he's a real nice guy. I'm like, I don't want to see you. I was like, just let me know where to meet you and when, and help me with the logistics. Other than that, just leave me the hell alone.
So you're now on like a spiritual pilgrimage,
right?
And you kind of know it,
yeah.
And you're by yourself in the middle of base camp in Nepal.
Well, so it was getting to base camp and back. So that is about a 2 week, or like I said, almost a 3 week trip. So it's basically a big loop from Lukla to base camp and down the Khumbu Valley and Gakyo-ri and things like that, yeah.
And this is clearly doable despite the fact that you're 240 and can't walk more than you hate running and all this stuff. You're figuring it out.
It was going just on pain and stubbornness is all it was, And it's with my mentality at that point was I'll run into whomever or whatever's in front of me as hard as I can and as long as I need to until one of us breaks. It was just like a war of attrition was the way I approached my life, whether it was work, relationships, whatever it was. And it was just, but it was at that point where something inside of me knew that this was a last ditch effort to save myself.
Wow.
And if this didn't work, I didn't know what I was going to do.
Wow. What's the name of your book?
Strength and Surrender.
Strength and Surrender. Adrian, will you bring it over and just strength and surrender? So this is kind of the beginning of the strength and surrender mentality.
So just strength. I don't know where what's going to be there, but
Pick
strength.
Any camera.
And surrender.
I just love this, dude. It's like I have I'm not close friends with him, but I know the guy that wrote Doctor Strange, John Spates, and it just reminds me of when Strange shows up in Nepal, or when Christian Bale in Batman shows up, in Nepal. It's these cinematic kind of like, and you're actually doing it. You know what I mean? And I think I bring it up because the temple that you were about to find, you said looked like it was straight out of a movie, right?
Yeah, it's wild. And I think when I look back on it now, it was the first time in my life as I got out of my head and into my heart and into my body. Because my entire life was just, because I'm a very analytical person. I enjoy numbers. I enjoy data. I enjoy
Me too,
processes.
but not the numbers, just the
Right.
thoughts, the intellect.
But it's, the problem is you can get stuck in your head and you don't realize that.
All day.
Or some people are stuck in their hearts and their bodies. They don't realize that. And our goal is to be able to move freely between the two of them. At that point, I lived in my head. Everything was just, I'll analyze this to death and I'll figure it out and I'll overcome it. And this thing was the first time that I unknowingly surrendered and got into my body and was able to start to move freely between the two, but start to feel things other than pain, anger, confusion, frustration. I could feel appreciation, and I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself now. But I began to be able to feel things for the first time.
Hi, everyone. I just want to take a moment to speak about a cause that is so near and dear to my heart, the ALS Network. The ALS Network is not only our charity champion, helping us to bring Season 1 and now Season 2 of Impossible Dreams to you, our audience, but the ALS Network is a critical care organization. They provide care, most of it free, to patients like me, our families, the community. They help fund research to end ALS. And this January, coming up, is their Champions Gala. It happens once a year. It's incredibly important. It's a huge fundraising event for them. And they honored me 2 years ago. This year, they are honoring Eric Dane. You know Eric Dane from Grey's Anatomy. And recently, I worked with Eric Dane in a show on Amazon called The Countdown. Eric Dane's courage to speak about his diagnosis and living with ALS has already affected the lives of millions. And Eric, with his courage and resilience, is really helping to change the conversation, which is what we're all trying to do here. ALS is not just a patient's problem. It's an everybody issue. We all need to work together to help flip the script. So you can help by visiting alsnetwork.org and learning about the mission, donating, supporting, learning how you can get involved. We appreciate your love and support so much. Thank you. And now back to the episode.
I think it's a very important distinction. Living in your head, living in your heart. I don't know if most people spend any time to understand themselves, to know. I think know thyself is probably the most important, quote of all time. And because I used to do the same thing. I was in my head all the time. I remember I went from academia and pre-med at Duke University to graduate school in musical theater and had the head of the program tell me to stop raising my hand in acting class and asking questions and stop highlighting the acting textbook. It was about doing, man. It wasn't about thinking my way through it. And I kind of had like a mini breakdown in grad school where I tried to explore that because I didn't know what that meant. I'd always been in my head, figuring out life from my head. Dude, it took me, another 25, 30 years.
Let me think about overthinking things.
Let me think about overthinking. Or what overthinking means, or wait a minute.
Yeah.
If I'm not overthinking, then who am I? Like, if that's who I think I am.
Yeah.
And getting into the heart, I remember for me, I'd been diagnosed for about a little over a year, and I was doing a musical in LA, and I started to have problems walking. I was doing a musical called The Secret Garden at the Amundsen, and I was reading a book at the same time called Healing by David Elliott, and he's got a diagram in the book. We should probably put this up if we can. It's the silhouette of a guy, and there's a spiral coming out of the heart, going to something called UEF, and then there's a straight line coming out of the belly button that goes from fear to illness. And the whole point was that if your heart is the way that you exchange love with the world. And if you close that off, if you turn it off, and you end up heading on a path straight down that ultimately ends with disease.
Right.
And that kind of just clicked for me in such a big way. And I was driving home from the show one night, musical, by the way, about a boy who can't walk due to a mysterious disease who's miraculously healed. And I'm playing the kid's doctor in the show who is like an evil kind of guy. Didn't fail to dawn on me that, the universe had put me in the right show at the right time. And I'm driving home. I start getting chest pains. I pull over to the side of the road. I burst into tears. I have no idea what's going on. I'm having a heart attack. I put my hands on my heart, and it just feels like it's wringing out sadness and pain.
Yeah.
And I'm sobbing, and I'm sobbing, and I'm sobbing, and I'm sobbing, and I don't know what's going on. It goes on for like 20 minutes. I drive home. Kids are like, "What's going on with you? Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think my heart's opening." And it was like this profound moment in my life that I can relate to. And I had been struggling to do something like integrate the head and the heart when I look back on it since I was 30 years old. And I started a company called Integrated Arts because I was seeing an Alexander technique teacher who was like my first guru. She had studied in India. She had studied in ashrams. And she had said to me, "Why do you think of your head as something separate from who you are? Your head and your heart and your body are all one thing. You got to integrate them." And I was like, "Oh man, I don't know what that is." So please continue with what you were about to.
Yeah, no, it's funny.
into.
It's just hearing your story, and I appreciate you sharing that. There's so many similarities. It's basically mine is essentially just going to echo yours, just in a different location.
Yours is way sexier.
No, but just very quickly is that as you mentioned. So about the third day I was there, I was in this tiny village called Tangboche, which maybe 30 people live in. It's walk in and walk out. There's no roads. I mean, you're in the Himalayas. You're outside of Lukla, and like you're there. And the largest Buddhist monastery in the area is there. And I got a chance to visit a service there, very early in the morning. And I sat in a room with maybe, 10, 12 chanting monks for about an hour. And I'd never been, done anything like that. I'd never meditated, wasn't spiritual at all, anything like that. But for some reason, something inside of me just said, just shut up and just experience whatever this is. And they were chanting. I'm just sitting there with my eyes closed, my legs crossed. And after maybe 15, 20 minutes, these waves of energy just started just enveloping me to the point where I was struggling to breathe. And I got goosebumps thinking about it now. Like it felt like, I joke about in the book, like I thought I'd sat on an electric mat that they plugged in or something, and they would shock tourists, and like that's how they got their kicks.
Like it was like a thing.
Yeah, exactly. I literally looked around, like, are they screwing with me? Like, what's going on here?
Right.
Like this, and I was like, just sit here, just be focused, and it was hitting me where, like, I was struggling for breath for maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Are you sitting with them, or you're behind
I'm sitting
them,
off to the side. Just over there, mind my business.
Innocent bystander.
Just trying to be present, just trying to just feel whatever this is. And I had no idea what that even meant. All I just kept telling myself was just shut the hell up and just sit here. And after the service I was going to put my shoes on, and I felt what I thought was like a fly or something on my cheek, and I reach up to wipe it away, and it's a tear. I'm like, what? I was like, that's just strange. I'm not a guy that cries very often. And I was like, maybe I got some dirt in my eye or something. And I go to walk across this tiny village.
What is this salty discharge?
But I go to walk across the village, and there's a stupa, which is like a small religious, temple or monument in the center of the village. There's a fence in front of it. And I sit down, lean against it, and I'm looking at Everest, and Everest is maybe 4 or 5 days walk away. I'm sure you've heard this story, but it's I see, the clouds passing across her face, the sun's rising behind her, and it's as picturesque in Nepal as you can possibly get. I mean, this is why tens of thousands of people come here every year. And just like what you mentioned a few minutes ago, out of nowhere, I'm just taking it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty. And I just lose it. And I roll over on my left side in the dirt in the fetal position and start bawling uncontrollably. And I don't mean there's a tear. I mean like a 2-year-old child with spit and snot. And I've got a beard that's, down to here at the time. I'm 240. And I was even to this day, I've never been in such physical, mental, emotional pain as I was in that moment.
Wow.
It was excruciating. My entire body was locked up. I mean, like muscles locked, everything was just, it was just bad. Everything's radiating through me. But luckily, something inside of me said, don't try to understand this. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to rationalize it. Whatever this is, just shut the hell up and take it. You need this. And that lasted for maybe, just like you said, for about 20 minutes. And then I finally sit up and I'm just like, I don't know what that was, kind of thing. Snot's dripping down and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was weird. I don't know what this was. And then I walked into the tea house to have breakfast. It's a little place where, you can stay in the village. And maybe there's like, I don't know, six, 8 people sitting there having breakfast. And the owner brings over a little bowl of oatmeal. And I go to take my first bite of oatmeal and just lose it again out of nowhere.
Wow.
And now I've got people around me and I'm embarrassed 'cause I'm bawling for these people. I cover my face, put my head down, and I cry into this bowl of oatmeal.
Wow.
And I cried so long and so hard. I remember watching my tears fill up that bowl. And I know Robbie's heard this story. And I'm just sitting there like, what the hell is going on? And then all of a sudden, something spoke to me. As I looked up into the back right corner of that room, and something, you can call it God or the universal unconscious or collective unconscious or the universe or whatever it is to everybody. And it said 2 things. It said, you're not living with a sense of purpose and your life is only about you. And when I heard it, when you say you heard something, people think you heard it with your ears. I didn't hear it with my ears. I heard it with my heart.
Yeah.
I heard it with every fiber and cell. I heard it with the current version of who I was.
Yes.
I heard it with every possible version that I could ever be, ever will be in every collective universe. Every part of me heard this thing. And what I realized was 2 things in that moment. That I knew for the first time what my purpose was, and I knew that my life would never be the same, and that I would never be the same. I knew that I had changed and that I had grown in that moment. And for the first time in my life, I understood the magnitude and the potential and the power of every second that we're here, that things can change for better or for worse in ways that they will never go back. And we lose that perspective in our everyday lives, and I'm guilty of it just like everyone else is. But every single second has that potential for change. That's all I got.
Out.
That was it. That was the start of it. That was the start of what eventually became, that was the start of me getting on that proverbial path of eventually founding Dawson's Peak Foundation a couple years later, of Project 7 for Soldiers, of losing 40 pounds, of coming back and completely changing my life and quit drinking and quit partying and quit doing all that stuff and starting to pursue something and to live for something greater than myself.
Oh my God. I'm in awe of your story. I've lived so much of it to a certain extent. That image of that mountain, I hope you have some kind of photo of that somewhere. And if you could ever share it with me or just something like it, because that mountain is so metaphoric. Is that the highest peak in the world?
Yeah.
And you're just looking at it. And then you're about to go climb the damn thing along with
Well, I
the
was
6
just going to
other
base camp at that point.
Right, but I mean, in your life,
Yeah.
you were headed to summit, and man, that thing that you said about I didn't hear it in my head. I felt it in every cell. That when I got diagnosed, I just heard, "You're going to beat this." That's all I heard. I had no idea how. And I started on a journey that led me, to just follow whatever breadcrumbs I could follow. I've had experience. I would call what you went through a mystical experience. I don't know if you would call it mystical. I've had experiences like that, either at Dispenza events, meditating, and having something happen that is completely unconscious, completely mystical, releasing emotion through screams that I didn't know could come out of my body, tears, sobbing, to meditating with Sadhguru, mystical experiences for an entire day that lasted for 3 weeks after, of appreciation of, I don't know shit. No matter how much I think I know, I don't know anything. And we're all one, and feeling the oneness with everything from the birds to the trees to, our fellow mankind. And then I don't know that I ever was clear, though, that my purpose had changed. Although, of course it had. You know, my purpose was obviously save my life, figure out how to heal from this thing that doesn't make sense, this fucking disease that just doesn't make sense. It's totally incoherent with who I am now.
Right.
Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But at the time, physically, it could have been coherent with who I was. You know what I mean? Physically, to manifest something that, you know, kind of represented the state of incoherence that I was in. I was pulling myself apart at the seams, kind of. I was burning out my nervous system, stuff like that. I felt like I was prey to life. Like you said, I didn't have the balls. I thought about checking out every once in a while. I never was going to do it. But I did feel like there was just something that no matter what I did in life, I wasn't getting out of the cycle that I was in, and I didn't know how to do it. And then these muscle twitches started right on the heels of a breakup, you know, where even though I'd been through a terrible traumatic divorce a couple years before, this was the thing that really brought me to rock bottom. And then I just kind of had that thing. And then I didn't talk about it with anybody, including my kids, really, for about a year and a half. And when the news leaked on a little podcast that I did for a friend where I thought, let me see what it feels like to talk about this. There's only 30 people who listen to this podcast. Nobody's ever going to find out. And Broadway Media leaked it. I then found myself in a position to talk about it. And I was like, oh, I guess this is... it wasn't like, oh, this is my new purpose. But I spent the next 2 years making an album and traveling the country and talking from the standpoint of how do I help people to know what I've learned without them having to get a disease, you know, or go through the depression, like you said, or, you know, go through all that you went through, like, and that's what this is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not only did you steal my story about the breakdown, you've also stolen my purpose. So I appreciate that. But,
what do you mean?
What I mean when I'm kidding
you
about
mean like
that
we
is,
shared that thing?
Yeah, exactly. Is that what I learned in that moment was it's almost verbatim what you just said is that my purpose is to help people avoid that pain, confusion, frustration, and darkness that I faced alone for so many decades. Number one, not knowing that I was in it, because I was so stuck in it and stuck in my head. But then secondly, once you realize you're in it, how do you get the hell out of it? And I was like, and I know that's why I'm here, is to help guide people, you know, out of that, get them out of it sooner and maybe not reach the depths, you know, that I did. Because the challenge is where we're not feeling good is we all feel like we're alone. We all feel like we're unique, that no one could possibly understand what we're going through, that we're the only people that have ever experienced this in our lives.
Right.
And it is, and I hate to break it to you and to everyone listening, whatever we're experiencing, the good stuff or the bad stuff, has been experienced billions or trillions or quadrillion times by millions or billions of people. There is nothing special about our pain, or our confusion or frustration. It doesn't make it any less difficult, and I'm not detracting from it, but there's nothing special about it because it's been faced before and it's been overcome before, and it's figuring out, you know, how to communicate that more effectively to people.
I mean, I agree. I push back a little bit and just say what seems special to me about it is that there's an opportunity to learn a lesson. The lesson is special. Mm-hmm. Although, like you're saying, the lessons are universal. And I just posted something on Threads yesterday because a friend's father is a Mexican man who's been living in the country since he was 14, working as a mechanic, paying his taxes. Wife and daughter were, you know, he was walking to a Starbucks, an unmarked van pulls up, guys get out, no uniforms, no warrant, throw him in the van, zip tie him, blindfold him, drive him to the Mexican border, push him out of the car, and at gunpoint tell him to cross the border. And I said, why is it that as a collective, humans have agreed that the only way we can appreciate the light is by experiencing the darkness? Right. And I get it, but I get that that's the paradigm. But I think it's only the paradigm because we all agree that that's the paradigm. And so I admire what you're doing because I feel like we're you know, brothers from another mother here about how do we change the paradigm. If you change the paradigm and the world will change. I mean, right. It's got to start somewhere. Yeah. And it's just so interesting that, you know, I'm just so grateful to get connected with you. And thanks, Robbie, for making this happen because this is the work, man. I couldn't be more passionate about doing anything right now in my life than trying to share this with people and get people fired up to wake up.
Yeah, look, I agree, and I appreciate you mentioned what you did a few minutes ago about pushing back, and just to be clear on something is I agree with you, is that there are differences in the lessons that we learn from things, and what we take away and how we communicate what we learned. What I was getting at is the trials and tribulations that we face, is that we all want to feel that we're alone in those. And that's one of the tricks that we play on our mind, that our minds play on each other when we're in it. That no one could understand what I'm facing in this moment, regardless of what it is. And that's I think one of the first keys to get people to understand is that none of us are alone. Is that we're all the same thing. We're all the same person looking for the same thing, just going about it in slightly different ways. And once we feel that level of connection, then I think that's one of the ways to help us to heal and to grow. Through that, is to understand that we're all in this together and we're not alone in whatever it is we're facing.
Yeah, the aloneness part of this, it's a fascinating game that the mind will play, and it will convince you, if you let it and you practice it, it will convince you that you're alone.
Yeah,
I've never been so not alone ever at the hardest time. It's not the hardest time right now. I went through I think I've come through to a level of, thank God, some level of I don't resist what's happening as much as looking for that way to fucking climb that mountain all the time and find a way to resist it and reverse it and stop it and this and that and that. You can exhaust the hell out of yourself in a body that's going through what my body hopefully was going through. And now I kind of have a blissful enjoyment of my life, even though I'm stuck in this fucking chair for most of the day. Also, God bless the chair. Let's give a shout out to Permobil.
Big shout out to
Permobil, providing chairs that help people rise above.
Hey, strength and surrender.
Strength and surrender. That's what so let's talk about those two words, right? Because strength, very clear what that means, but surrender, different for a lot of people. Right. What's that mean to you?
Well, again, I feel like I don't know why I'm here, because you keep stealing.
No, dude, you're here. You're here to say to people that this guy, first of all, you're going to be like, this guy's not, the Broadway guy is not crazy. This is real. And a real man's man can also, share an amazing. I think it's so powerful to have you.
Yeah, no, look, I love what you're saying.
I know you're fucking around.
Yeah, there's just so much correlation, because obviously it's strength and surrender. The reason I phrased it like that is, number one, it gets people's attention because you're creating a juxtaposition. Because normally you don't see strength next to surrender. And when people see surrender, they think there's a negative connotation with it, because historically it's going to be that you surrender to authority, or that one army surrendered to another, things like that.
Or you give up to a disease.
Exactly. And the way that we position and describe surrender is not reactive. It is a proactive choice that we're making. And there's all the description about it in the book about, how do we surrender, what do we surrender into, and all this kind of stuff. But essentially, surrender is, you don't try to fight everything. Surrender is not just giving up and giving in and going along and just being completely passive and being acted upon. Surrender is facing your trials and your tribulations and your challenges and your fears head on, allowing them to move into you. So you're not running from them and you're not trying to destroy them. You're simply allowing them to move into you, experiencing them to their absolute fullest, but most importantly, allowing them to move through you and not take root within you, and not to change or influence, who you are, how you're acting, what you're doing, who you're becoming, because to fight it is to fuel it. And
dude, how do you do that? That's a beautiful and sort of key distinction that I have definitely experienced. But I also can say, I had a real time with it. What do you do to help people learn what that is for them, what surrender is for them?
Yeah, surrender is going to be slightly different for everyone, how we approach it or how we apply it, how we utilize it, how we put it into action. But essentially, it's finding ways to basically to face the fears, the challenges, whatever it is, and to feel it. Because a lot of times is we'll say we're facing something, but we're still keeping it at arm's length because we're scared to feel it. Because we're scared of the impact it's going to have on us, the change it might have on us, the questions that we're asking ourselves. Because if I'm not who I think I am, then who am I? And if I'm not acting in a manner that I believe I should be acting in, then who am I? All these kinds of things. It creates a lot of uncertainty, and people by nature don't like uncertainty.
Nope.
But most importantly, like I said, is you've got to let it move through you. And what I envision is like if you're the Eiffel Tower and there's a big nasty cloud bank moving in. It's sitting over the tower, then it moves through it. There aren't pieces of that cloud still sitting there. It's completely removed from it. And essentially to fight it is to fuel it. Is the more we put our energy into something, the more we're fueling it, whatever that is.
What we resist persists.
Exactly. It's it's the old adage, if you hold the hot stone in your hand, is you're the only one that it's hurting, and it's not going to be worth it to you in the end. There's all kinds of adages for it.
You guys, I just want to take a second to say thank you to you, the audience. This show doesn't happen without you. I am, from the bottom of my heart, I am deeply grateful to you, because I started The Impossible Dream as a platform to help myself heal and to help other people heal. This podcast is all about that, and without you, that can't happen. We help each other heal. It really does take a village. So if you could just take a second to click and subscribe, like us, rate and review the show. Your comments really do help. Not only do they help us bring you other guests that you want to hear from, but they help us improve the show. They help us grow the show. Your engagement helps us expand what's possible for the reach of Impossible Dreams. So thank you, truly thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Impossible Dreams team.
It's amazing how the chapters of my experience, the book of this journey, have laid themselves out. And this past January, right when your book came out, my son, who's here today, had his bar mitzvah. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of stress. And I came upon a book by Michael Singer called The Surrender Experiment. I was seeing a guy who doesn't advertise, no social media, nothing, a healer here in L.A., whose name I can't mention because if you want to know who he is, you can contact me and then I can connect you with him. But he does absolutely no advertising. Fascinating healer and spiritual guide. And he was talking to me about surrender. And I didn't really know what it meant, but I knew that it meant something different than what I had run from a year before when I was at a healing event. And there was one other guy who was dealing with disability there. He had MS for 10 years, and we found each other opposite each other at lunch. He was like, Aaron, the way you're talking, I feel like you really need to surrender. And I was like, no way, man. I will not surrender. That's bullshit. There's no surrender. I will win. I will this. And he's like, no, I think you have a different definition of what surrender is. And here I was a year later, finally, I guess, ready to learn. And between the book, which is a beautiful story about a guy who learns how to just let life happen, and he surrenders to life through the healer that I was working with, through then the timing of a mushroom journey that I had scheduled, where the healer was like, you need to face death. Like, you just need to do it. You need to get in there. You need to take a bunch of mushrooms, and you need to go whatever it is that you need to face. You need to face it. And I was ready by the time I took this mushroom journey. I'm not big, plant medicine guy or substance guy. I never really, nothing. But I'd taken some mushrooms once before, a couple of years before, on a beach with my girlfriend at the time. It's actually the last time I ran. All the discomfort in my body kind of went away, and I was able to run on the beach. But it was a very sort of external mushroom journey. It was all about nature, the stars, the fish in the water. It was all like that. I was like, okay, I don't need to do that again. I get what that was, and it didn't last as long as I wished the, physical freedom would have lasted. And so I don't want to keep doing that. But I was ready again this time. And this time it was an eyes closed experience. And it's the scariest thing I've ever done. It's the most thrilling thing I've ever done. And I faced death. I wept and sobbed over the parts of my body that have stopped, working or appear to have stopped working. I wept and sobbed, over all different parts of my life and relationships. And I let go of who I used to be, and I stepped into who I really am. And I also had the most exhilarating experience of seeing the unified field of consciousness, as I call it. You call it the infinite field of unconscious. Whatever it is, I saw it, I got it, I got that we're all parts of it. I just had a profound experience, and that was in March. And major changes in my life happened through April, and then I've kind of been in this couple-month period of living life in as much joy and as much gratitude and as much quiet that I've ever been able to experience while dealing, not only while dealing with ALS, but than ever before. You know, people are like, well, how are you doing? And I'm like, well, physically, emotionally, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, I'm happier and healthier than I have ever been, ever. Maybe in any lifetime, if you believe in that. So it's just the body, I believe, will fucking catch up, man.
Right.
Because now we're going back to you, because as you say, you realized that you can't change the outside until you change the inside. But then what's awesome for you is that you had to go outside to change the inside.
It was, in my case, it was going far to go deep.
Tell us about that, because you then went to go do a bunch of world record breaking stuff that most people only ever dream. You want to talk about impossible dreams? You know, I could rattle them off, but that's boring. Tell us what you've done.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 40-year-old that had no experience whatsoever in endurance or anything adventure related. I came back. It took a couple years to put the foundation in place, or the structure of the foundation, I should say. I contacted a very good friend of mine, Jay Jablonski, who's the co-founder of Dawson Speak Foundation. Told him what I wanted to do. He was in with it, and it's funny because when Jay and I met, he was a bartender in Hollywood, so he and I partied hard together for a long time, and then he was just kind of along the same journey I was in a different way.
That's
so the
awesome.
timing was perfect, and the guy's like my brother. I love the guy to death. Is that we wanted to structure this in a way that if I did everything I could possibly do and got a little bit lucky, then maybe I could possibly achieve what I was trying to achieve. Is I wanted it so far out there that it wasn't guaranteed, but maybe we could do it. And I wanted things I'd never done before, because I wanted the viewers, who are watching, to say, to exemplify to them that you don't have to have necessarily experience in something to be able to accomplish it.
Wow.
That I was having to figure this stuff out real time, putting myself out in front of the entire world.
And by figure stuff out, we're talking what?
I'm talking, literally, figuratively, hanging on the side of a mountain, rowing an ocean. I mean, figuring it's like where there's real consequences.
All right, hold on, because you're skipping over some incredibly impressive feats of human achievement, endurance. Rowing an ocean. Let's start there.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll back up. So 7 for Soldiers, which is the project.
So did this whole, you came back from Nepal, right? And this profound experience, and you call up Jay. I know we're skipping some steps here, but it then starts with you going, this needs to be about an organization other than myself, but I'll start an organization to do it.
It was actually a lot more involved in that. And this is what people don't understand is when you're trying to get on this path or think you're on the proverbial path, it's not going to be very clear cut, all the time.
No, it is not.
Or easy to stay on. So once I got back from Nepal, it took around 2 to 3 years for me to figure out the organization. I knew I wanted to live in some way to help others. I was like, how the hell do I do it? Because you don't come back and say, look for on the Craigslist, I'm a purpose finder helper.
Yeah, right.
It's like.
But you knew the end game. You knew the end.
I knew the end game,
goal.
Meaning that I wanted to help people. I wanted to live with
Awesome.
To help people avoid, the confusion, all the pain, all what we talked about.
Wow.
But I was like, I don't know how the hell to do this. Then I started climbing other mountains. I started traveling the world a little bit, climbing like big mountains. And it was on a trip to Elbrus, which is in Russia, the highest peak in Europe, where it finally dawned on me, hey, maybe I can start an organization where we go out and do big, athletic endurance, adventure-related stuff. People can watch our athletes do it and then draw parallels between themselves and the athletes and say, hey, if this person's doing X, Y, and Z, I can find something comparable in my life.
Robbie, how freaky is this, dude? I've never met anyone who shares the purpose so much as you and I do, because I literally said to Robbie, the whole purpose of this podcast, right, is to have conversations with people so that people listening and watching can see themselves in these people, whether it's you or Mark Cuban or Gabby Reese or whoever it is, and they can go, okay, these people who we think are doing impossible things, who are untouchable, who are, I could never do that. you got a lot more in common with them than you think.
That's exactly what it was.
That's literally what we're doing, man.
Yeah, it's the same
unbelievable.
thing.
Yeah.
Again,
I
you're
love
stealing
it.
my thunder again, so I appreciate it.
No, we're sharing a lot of thunder, baby. We're
But
sharing.
that was it. And the like I said, and the project was do things I'd never done before and I got figured out. So what we decided was to do everything within a 12-month period. So it was going to be to complete the Adventurer's Grand Slam or the Explorer's Grand Slam, which is you climb the highest peak on every continent and then ski to the North Pole and the South Pole. At the time, there's different ways of doing it, but collectively at the time, I think 48 people had done it before. And I'm like, that's great, but we've got more time in a year, so what else can we do? And then for some reason, I think Jay's like, well, why don't you row the Atlantic? I'm like, perfect, put that on there.
Oh, my God, dude.
Because I have no water experience whatsoever. I don't even like being wet, to be honest with you. I'm a desert guy.
Holy
and I was like, that sounds good. I was like, there's got to be more. I was like, if we do that from this month to this month, we got more time. What else can we do? And then I was supposed to ride a motorcycle across the Mojave Desert. And then also the last thing was, I was like, well, we got a little bit more time. What else can we do? I was like, if we're going to do a year, let's do a year. So then we decided to fly a plane around the world. I'd fly a plane because I'm a pilot as well. And then so I started training. I was 40 years old. I was now about 220 pounds, had no experience. And I moved from from LA to Lone Pine, which is about 3.5 hours away, and just went into like monk solitude where I was training 20, 25 hours a week. As I'd get up, I'd train, I'd work on the charity. I'd go back and I'd train in the evenings. I wasn't talking to people. I was isolated.
For like a year and a half, right?
Yeah, for about a year and a half. So the plan was to train for 18 months, then to get kicked off. And then of course, COVID happened. Everything shuts down. So then
what the hell do you do now?
We were about 3 weeks away from leaving for the North Pole, which is going to start the trip.
Oh my God.
And it gets canceled. Then I'm like, that's fine. Because we didn't know what COVID was at the time. I was like, we'll just start with Everest and I'll catch COVID on the back, or I'll catch North Pole on the back end. Everest gets canceled and everything gets canceled. And then I go to Jay, I'm like, what are we supposed to do? It felt like I just run my first marathon. I'd run 26 miles. There's 0.2, there's the finish line. And when I get there, they say, you got to turn around and run all the way back.
Again.
I was like, the decision was if I wanted to keep going, I would have to train for another year just to get to the starting line.
Oh, no.
So I ended up training 30 months. I had 3 surgeries. I had multiple surgical procedures.
Because you were getting hurt.
Yeah, I was just overtraining and being ignorant, not knowing what I was doing.
I saw a video of you like single leg squatting with a broken ankle.
Yeah, that was after an ankle surgery.
Yeah.
I was wheeling around.
I saw you. I was like, that's innovative as hell. You were doing some kind of like rows, and you had your cast on.
I had a furniture
track.
dolly. I had a furniture dolly. Yeah, I ordered off Amazon a little $3 furniture
so
dolly.
that you could not stop training.
I got out of surgery at like 3 p.m. on that one, and I was working out by I think 5. It just showed me. It's like, and I was talking to Jay about it. It doesn't matter, what I felt like. It didn't matter where I was. It's like, are you going to do it or not? You got to make the decision. I'm like, well, in for a penny, in for a pound kind of thing. I trained for another 12 months. And then long story short, we finally kicked off in 2021 and knocked out, started with Everest. North Pole got canceled again. We're supposed to start with North Pole in 21. That gets canceled. I go to Everest, able to summit that and just start.
Hold on. Hold on. What was it like going from the bubble of training, even as intense as it was, which reminds me of Rocky IV and that whole training montage? What was it like going from that to now you're actually on the mountain?
You're right.
And you had been to this mountain before, but you had looked at it from the ground in tears.
Right.
And now you're fucking doing it, dude. First time you summit?
Yeah, 1 for 1. It's one of the
people die up there.
Yeah, there were I think there were 6 or 7 deaths the year that I was there. There were two new bodies on the line, still clipped into the line, around the south summit, and then at the bottom of the Hillary Step you had to go around. When I was there.
How did you do this? Had you visualized this for how did you do this? And as you're doing it, were you like, this is going so well. I'm having a blast and I can't wait to get onto the ocean. Yeah. Like this is so easy. Was it the hardest thing you've ever done? Like get us inside your experience when you're on that mountain. Were you ever in danger?
That's
a dumb question.
There was obviously, things that got my attention, during, It was interesting is when I first started.
Jay went with you, or you're by
No,
yourself?
I was by myself. I mean, I was in a team, but I went by myself on it. When I first started, because I had no experience, I had no type of endurance shape. I had no experience doing any of this stuff. It was like if I absolutely kill myself, then maybe I could possibly accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. And I threw myself so headlong into this for 30 months. This was what I did, period. Like, wasn't going out, wasn't drinking, wasn't dating. I mean, it was this or nothing. And just building the organization. But as I started going, I started to just grow on every trip. Mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically, every type of growth you can think of, to where each trip, although there were these difficult times, I was gaining confidence, I was gaining skills, I was gaining abilities, and I just started to kind of come in to my own, on these trips. Everest was the first one. And when you get
it's got to be a hell of a way.
When you get to Camp 4 at 26,000 feet, it's like, oh, I'm almost there. It's only another 3,000 feet. But it's another mountain. You get there at base camp and you look up, you're like, what the hell is going on? How is there another mountain on top of this mountain I just climbed? And when you had it, like when I was there, is our summit day, we got pushed back a couple hours because the weather was terrible. And when you step out of the tent, and there's a longer story in my book where I couldn't feel my feet were totally numb. And I had to decide if I was going to try to summit with numb feet and risk whatever comes out of that or just quit. And I was like, I'm either going to summit or they're going to pull me off this mountain. I mean, I was like, I'm not quit. I don't give a shit. I'm not quitting. I don't care if I go home in a body bag or getting left here. I'm not quitting.
You were willing to die.
That day I was. I'd made that decision. I didn't care at that point anymore. I just didn't want to put myself in a position where I was harming other people or putting other people in jeopardy at risk. I was like, if something happens, I'm going to refuse help and I'm just going to sit here and just deal with it and whatever.
Oh my God.
But it was on that. It's just, as I went along, as I started gaining more abilities and more confidence, so I started performing better and better and better, because Denali was the second climb.
How fucking fired up are you right now, Robbie Shaw? How fired up are you, Adrian and Jordan?
Let's do some push-ups.
Jesus.
But it's a lot of people that have climbed Everest and Denali consider Denali harder. It's a totally different climb.
Yeah.
But I felt so much better on Denali, and that was only a couple weeks after Everest. Like, I came back, changed bags, went to Denali.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So if you'd been able to start at your original start time, you think you were trained enough, or did you think that getting to 30 months, were you out there going, you know what, everything happens for a reason? I'm pretty damn glad that I had another year to train.
It's a great question, and I hate to say it, but I don't know the answer. Given just I didn't have the opportunity to experience it, I think I was in good enough shape to get it done at the 18-month mark. But there's so many things that are outside of your control, you just don't know. But at the 30-month, there's no question that I was so much more than capable of doing it. My goal going in was I wanted to be 20 or 30% overtrained, meaning that if I had a bad day, if I got injured, if I had bad weather, that I didn't need to max out my abilities to possibly do it. I wanted to have a buffer of like 20, 30%. And Everest, when I summited, I was like, I got 20, 30% more in me.
Wow.
So it was the absolute.
So you did
perfect.
exactly what
it was the perfect. It was and I don't think that's anything. I think it was just a lot of luck involved. But there was a lot of training and everything was tracked.
But you can't train for being at the summit of Everest with feet that you can't feel in those conditions. You can't train for that.
No.
So the mental of it, and you talk about this a lot, which I think is also it's something that I go back to all the time. When you think you're ready to quit, you're not.
No.
How did you train that? When you say you trained for 30 months, that's not just the physical training.
Right.
Was that mental training?
Yeah, that was the physical training. And 100% of my daily training was alone, 100%. And during that time, is all the stats are in the book. I forget them now, how many workouts it was, but I never skipped a single workout. And it was, talking thousands of hours. And it was so important for me to train alone because I didn't want to have to depend on someone else to motivate me.
What is the worst situation you got yourself into while you were training that you think might have been key to your survival when you were out there doing it?
I think it was probably a collection of overtraining. Is that my fear was I didn't want to show up not having worked hard enough and not having been properly prepared for it. And because of that, and because of my mentality coming into it was I overtrained so much, is that led to multiple surgeries, multiple injuries, multiple surgical procedures, and where I was just tearing my body down. But it was, I think, bringing that kind of mentality into it of finally learning to relax in a way and kind of trust the process rather than trying to control and overpower everything. And when you're doing all these, mountains or rowing oceans or whatever, is so much of this stuff's outside of your control.
So hold on, all right. I could talk to you about this for so long, but let's go from the land to the sea. So you're in a boat, and you're solo rowing across the Atlantic Ocean.
So by the time the row came along,
rowing.
So by the time the row came along, is I'd climbed a number of mountains. I'd just gone down to
right. Sorry, you're going mountain to mountain to mountain with no rest.
With maybe a week, maybe 2-3 weeks in between.
A week. So this is nothing to you.
Right.
Your recovery period is what? The
recovery is normally the flight home. Then I'd get home, start training again.
And you're not in like an infrared tent with, you're not like at the top of Millionaire's Row recovery with what's his name, Johnson, the guy that's, spending millions of dollars to cheat death. You're old school.
Just getting back at it. Yeah, my gym is $30 a month. It's open 24 hours a day, and
Yes, it is, man.
Couple of Gatorades.
Couple of Gatorades, man. Yeah, dude. Walk it off.
I'm too cheap to buy Gatorade. Yeah.
Walk it off. Yeah. So you just come back, and then man, so many questions. Were you ever just at any point did you just go, I don't know if I can do this. I think this one, I should probably not go do this next one. It's a dumb idea.
It never honestly, I'm not trying to sound tough, is that never entered my mind.
You sound pretty tough, dude.
Well, no, because this was bigger.
You don't have to try. You just fucking are.
This was bigger than me, and this wasn't about me. Number one, and then secondly,
that's so beautiful.
Secondly, it's what I needed out of this project, what I was looking for out of this project, was meant more to me than my survival.
I just relate that to what I'm going through, and I just go, I've made this as much about other people as I can, but have I? Can I make it less about me? Am I willing to die for this? I mean, I don't know that I get a choice, but I kind of get to choose how I do it, and I'm like, no, it's got to be about. I got to figure. I got these kids, and I got, you know what I mean? I got so much to live for, but there's something so powerful and liberating that I hope people take away from this, which is when you make it about other people. As you said, your life went from your purpose being self-service to the service of others. When you make it about other people, man, this is what I say to people. When I say we all have the power within us to make the impossible possible, you just add another layer to that, because part of that is the spiritual awakening. When you tap into that infinite intelligence that speaks to us all and through us all, you gain the power that is really the divinity that's within us and all around us. And then when you make it about other people, it's so empowering and inspiring to talk to you about this stuff.
Well, something I talk about in the book is the 3 Ps, where it's patience, perspective, and perseverance. And I think with the right combination of those 3 things, you can get through anything put in front of you. And it's just what you just mentioned, just to kind of to piggyback on it, is we don't understand and appreciate how powerful we are and what we're capable of. And where we think our limits are is I talk about this several times, is when I thought I was approaching my limits, and typically they were psychological limits, but sometimes physical limits. When I got there, I realized that it wasn't this wall that was there, that I thought it was. As I got there, I'm like, there's no limit here. And I'd see it over there. I'm like, well, maybe it's over there. Then I'd get to it there, and it wasn't there. And time again, the universe, came to me at different points during the project where I was like, I thought I was maxed out. That I was like, I can't put any more on the table, physically, emotionally, psychologically, financially, because I've funded a lot of this stuff myself.
Wow.
And the universe would say to me, that's your problem, not mine. If you want to continue, you got to find a way to put more on the table. Wow. And the only way to put more on the table was to grow as an individual, and now to risk more of it. At the time, the only way to continue was to grow, to risk more of who I was and who I was trying to become. And it got called to me time and time and time again, where the universe said, I don't give a shit. That's your problem. Figure it out. And you have to figure it out.
What was your mindset? I'm trying to zoom out on this while also trying to get as granular as I can be. It's like, you have such an unbelievable guy and such an unbelievable story. when you're in the boat, different than on the mountain mentally, or is it all kind of the same where you go, you know, that thing that I did was hard as fuck and I did it. So I know even though this is a different kind of hard, I know I can figure this out. Because I imagine, first of all, I'm just like, how did your hands even, how many miles is that?
I think it was 3,200 statute miles.
And you're training on a rower in a $30 a month gym?
There was no training. There was no training for that. By the time I got to the boat, for the row I'd already climbed, I forget how, I think it was the ninth expedition. So I just got back from Antarctica, where I went to the Mount Vincent, the South Pole, went straight to, literally 2 days later, went to Aconcagua, which is the highest peak outside the Himalayas in South America, climbed that. Then hit the water. I think I was flying for the row maybe 4 days after being on the mountain in South America. So even to get to the row was going to be such a proverbial miracle that my whole plan was, if I can just make it to the row and I've been successful, I'm going to just sit there, I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to row until I fall out, the boat sinks, or I hit land. It's just, that's it.
Did any of those things happen?
We damn near sunk a couple times. Now, one point of clarification is I did have a partner on the row. So it was me and a guy named Patrick Favre.
Pussy.
Who I know, right? Who's an awesome guy. We're in a 21-foot boat, and we rode from the Canary Islands to the French West Indies. Took us 53 days, 3 hours, and 30 minutes. But the challenge on the row was that there's no break.
Yeah, I'm saying, how do you sleep?
It never stops, dude.
You got a bathroom on the boat, I guess.
Yeah, the bathroom we had 2 buckets.
Right.
And one of the buckets was the bathroom bucket. And you just, do what you need to do and just throw it overboard.
Unreal, man.
Yeah, but
so you got, first of all, a 21-foot boat with 2 guys that are 200 pounds of solid muscle is not a big boat. It's not small, but it's not a big boat. In the middle of the ocean, it must have felt like
pretty small.
You were on in a thimble. You know what I mean? Talk to me about a memory that you have of that row that was either profound. Well, give me a profoundly difficult experience, and then give me a profoundly spiritual experience on that row.
I think it's you have all the stuff you'd expect. Like the first couple days, maybe the first week, I was so seasick. We started going, and like I said, there was no training whatsoever.
You got 53 days in a boat, and for the first 7 to 10 of them, you're losing weight, you're vomiting, you're seasick.
I don't think I ate it's in the book now, but I forget the details. I don't think I ate for like 3 or 4 days, and I'm rowing 12 hours, because we each rowed 12 hours a day. So the only thing that
my son, by the way, just got back from his first outdoor adventure camp. Adrian, I'll tell this for you because you're not on camera and they won't be able to hear, but it was a week on a river in a canoe, a week on a Navajo reservation, and then a week on a mountain. And he did 17 miles in a canoe in one day and wrote me an amazing letter, and we cried about how amazing it was. Can you imagine, Adrian, going through this?
It was interesting, but it's funny because, and just shorten it up, so my partner's rowing and we've been out for like 5 hours, and I felt great. I mean, I was like, I'm Captain Jack out here, and he's like, well, maybe you're one of the like 3% that don't get seasick. I'm like, I'm a stud. I don't get sick. We're good to go. And I'm sitting there, and like 5 minutes later, I burst out of the compartment in the front, and he's on the oars. I throw him out of the way, and I barely make it over his shoulder before I just puke everywhere. And for the next 4 days,
I'm saying
I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink any water. I couldn't eat. And then I was like, the only thing that got me from laying down was rowing for 12 hours a day.
So you're barfing while you're rowing.
Oh, I was rowing. I'd throw up. I just keep on rowing, and yeah.
And at any point, because this is where my mind, I've been, developing such a discipline, when I get to the thing that's like, really, my arms don't want to open the sliding door today, or really, I can't hold the toothbrush, or really, we got to adjust where the wheelchair is to get me on the toilet, or really, I can't, get my dick out of my pants to pee. My mind wants to constantly tell me that things are not possible and go to a worst case scenario, catastrophizing situation. And I have constantly told it no.
Right.
And now that happens, it happens less. And when it happens, it's less intense. And it doesn't last as long as it used to. But still, there's this feeling of like, I'm in this to win this. I'm not in it to survive. I'm in it to recover. I'm in it to reverse. Mm-hmm. And I need to see signs of that physically. you know, and then you just got to go, all right, well, if it's not happening right now, it could happen in the next moment. So just keep going.
Yeah.
You're in this boat, you're barfing for 4 days. At any point where you're like, we got 50 days to go, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this.
Yeah, you can't. You can't do it. And that's one of the things I talk about. And when
It's a zero. There's no possibility. There's no struggle mentally for you whatsoever as to what you are going to do.
No.
You're going to row 12 hours a day, no matter what.
what it comes down to is when certain challenges get so large, is we can't allow ourselves to let our minds get that far out in front of us. And the game that I like to play with myself is how small can I keep my world?
Whoa, yes.
I couldn't think about
Nope.
On day 3, you told me I've got 7-8 more weeks of this. That would have driven me absolutely crazy. And granted, it's easier out there because there is no pause button. If you want to get rescued, it's going to take you days and cost $100,000, $200,000. It's going to be a bad scene. But I wouldn't think about 3 days from now. I wouldn't think about tomorrow. All I thought about was just getting to the next roadblock that I was on.
Yep.
And we would row for 1 to 4 hours. You know, the shifts were 1 to 4 hours. And I would just say, make it to the next block, the next block. That's all I cared about. It's just the next block.
That explains why you have no skin on your. I'm looking at Dawson's hands. He has no skin on his palms. They're skinless palms. I've never seen a man with skinless palms. No, how the
A whole
hell?
different reason, but yeah.
Right.
I knew it.
Dude, I think
Low-hanging fruit. Yeah.
was so easy.
no, that's Robbie's reason.
Layup.
And I'm sure a lot is in the book too. But hearing it from you, I mean, I think. Let's say this is part 1 with Dawson. Let's say get the book Strength and Surrender. Let's ask people to go check out Dawson's Peak Foundation, and let's have you come back and really get into the mindset of not just what you did while you were on sort of these epic. I mean, you know, we had Ben Stiller and his wife Christine Taylor on the show, and the only movie I really ended up talking to him about was Walter Mitty. And you're kind of living like this epic Walter Mitty hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about how you did it more, but I also want to talk about then in your life now,
Yeah.
when you're not training and when you're not, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or at the South Pole skiing or whatever,
Yeah.
or in the middle of the Mojave Desert, which we didn't even get to. What is life for you? What is your energy and your daily outlook every day when you get up in the morning and you see the sun here in LA, and you think about, you said patience, perspective, and perseverance.
Yeah.
What's your perspective now? I would just love to hear where you're at.
Yeah.
But we'll have you come back, man. I thank you so much.
Look,
This has just
I'd
been
love to. And again, there's a lot of questions I have for you as well.
let's get into it.
Yeah. So a lot of things I'd like to learn from you and hear your perspective on.
Let's do it.
Yeah. I appreciate the time.
Appreciate you,
Yeah.
man. Thanks so much.